Okay, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, for our sprint race this evening. So, of course, the lap counter showing 15 laps. We will, of course, do one mandatory formation lap. There are no mandatory pit stops for this sprint race, so it's just a straight race to the finish. And, of course, the field will reorder itself as we run into this formation lap. So we're just waiting for the guys to ready up in the lobby now. We're just sorting fuel. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so just once again, the sprint race this evening is 14 laps with a safety car window of lap 1, 2, 3. So, of course, if 2 or more cars are involved in an incident, safety car will be called to bunch the field back up. And then there will be a rolling start from there, just to keep the field nice and close together. Of course, in the last feature race, we managed to do an entire race with no safety cars at all, so let's hope for some nice clean racing. So of course this start does not count, and we will go into the start of the formation lap. So of course we have Shorzy and then that bag Z4 with Dizzy in third place. Sausage Miyagi running out of fuel on the last lap of the feature race, so now in fourth place. Banslowski in fifth, GRG Jacob in sixth, with Doherty James in seventh, That Shift 80 in eighth, and then Calm Big Tam, who didn't manage to finish 90% of the feature race, starting at the back of the field. So moving back to the front of the grid with Shorzy warming up the tyres, making sure that he's up to race temperature with his brakes and tyres, of course. So of course, ladies and gentlemen, once again the grid order is Shorzy on pole with That Bag Z4, CRS Dizzy in third place, with Sausage Miyagi in fourth, with Banslowski, the winner of our feature race, in fifth, with GRG Jacob, who has now been promoted to second place, in sixth, with Doherty James in seventh, Redshift 80 in eighth, and Calm Big Tam in ninth. So moving once again to the to the front of the field as we make our way round the back section of the course to begin our sprint race for this evening. So of course 14 laps, no pit stops. You can have safety cars between laps 1 and 3 of this very, very short sprint race. So the field now starting to bunch up together, starting to make their way round the penultimate corner, as we make our way into the final corner to start this touring car sprint race this evening. Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, just once again, you cannot overtake until the start line. The green flag has now dropped, with Shorzy into first place, with CRS Dizzy down the inside to second place, with Sausage Miyagi making it up a place into third. A terrible start from That Bag Z4 down into fourth place. Banslowski holding station in fifth position, So back to the front with CRS Dizzy pushing hard on the back of Shorzy to try and gain a position. So as the field come out onto the back straight, Dizzy looking down the inside of Shorzy for a position. Sausage Miyagi now looking round the outside into the two right-handers, maybe looking to make a move in the next couple of corners. So Dizzy's having to defend from Sausage Miyagi, which is allowing Shorzy to pull a little bit of a gap at the front of the field. Oh, and a big slide from that bag Z4 down the inside of Banslowski. Banslowski now taking 4th position, with Doherty James also taking advantage into 5th. So Doherty James and that bag Z4 running side by side. That bag Z4 getting swamped by everybody, losing a lot of places at the moment, with GRG Jacob taking advantage and moving up into 6th position. So now following the winner of the sprint race this evening, Banslowski, as he makes his way through the S's, trying to keep it as straight as possible through there and out onto the back straight. So Sausage Miyagi making his way through to 2nd place this evening, and slowly but surely making his way back up onto the tail of Shorzy. Of course, Sausage Miyagi unfortunately running out of fuel into the final lap in the feature race, so sadly not able to keep the 2nd position that he held for an awful long time during that race. So following now, Doherty James with CRS Dizzy all over the back of Doherty James, looking to the inside, not quite close enough to make a move this time. CRS Dizzy looking to the inside, down the inside into the final turn. Doherty James giving him plenty of racing room, and now a straight drag race down to the 1st corner. And of course, GRG Jacob running right behind CRS Dizzy might be able to make a move on Doherty James into this 1st corner and down the inside for 5th position there. So following this battle for 4th, 5th and 6th, with Dizzy defending from GRG Jacob, with Doherty James behind them, all 3 BMWs nose to tail as we go through this final corner. Oh, and a spin for CRS Dizzy there. I'm not quite sure whether there was contact or not, but CRS Dizzy moved to the back of the field. Doherty James and GRG Jacob Carrot continuing their battle for the 4th and 5th position. So moving back to the front, Sausage Miyagi and Shorzy now fighting for the lead of the race, with only 2/10 between the two cars, running almost nose to tail through the fast right-hander to Sausage Miyagi looking to the outside, trying to get as much of a run through the... Oh, and Sausage Miyagi making a run into the final corner down the inside on the brakes. Nice and easily done. So let's see now. Sausage Miyagi clearly had the pace in the 1st race, so let's see if he can now pull a gap on Shorzy, or whether Shorzy can hold on to the back of Sausage Miyagi and pressure him for the lead. Sausage Miyagi back down the inside. I believe it's going to be side by side through this next corner. Not quite. Sausage Miyagi able to keep position, with Shorzy following very, very close behind. So moving back to the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th, and GRG Jacob and Doherty James have been joined by the Redshift 80 joining onto the back of their battle, moving out onto the back straight. Let's see who gets the run out of the left-hander. Redshift 80 crawling all over the back of Doherty James. Doherty James runs wide slightly, and I believe that is the move done for Redshift 80 there. So Redshift 80 moves up into 5th position, with Doherty James moving down into 6th. So now Redshift 80 trying to move onto the back of GRG Jacob as he makes his way around the long, fast right-hander and into the last 2 corners. So Sausage Miyagi at the front, managing to pull a little bit of a gap. The gap now up to about 1.1 seconds for him. So starting to move away from Shawsey now. He's managed to get past. However, moving up to the rear of Shawsey is our winner for the feature race, Banslowski, who obviously again had pace during the feature race. So perhaps he'll be able to close the gap to Shawsey and try and make a move. So moving back to GRG Jacob and Redshift 80, battling it out through the S's on the front part of the course. So Redshift 80 not quite close enough at the moment to make a move, but just making sure that GRG Jacob knows that he's there. Oh, and a spinner. Shawsey spins onto the back straight. That allows Banslowski through into 2nd place. So now Banslowski can really get his head down and see if he can catch Sausage Miyagi for the race lead. This could be a very interesting battle developing, considering both of these drivers were very, very close on pace in the feature race. It was only really the fact that Banslowski was able to run away from the start of the race that he was meant that he was able to maintain a lead throughout the race. So moving back, we now have Shawsey, GRG Jacob and Redshift 80 all coming around that fast right-hander. GRG Jacob gets a little bit squirrely on the curbs there with Redshift 80, and then Doherty James not very far behind either. Oh, and a move down the inside from Redshift 80. What a move there. However, GRG Jacob pulls it back to the inside and manages to get the undercut, and he may be able to get the run on Shawsey there down into the 1st corner. We're going to follow this course as, of course, Doherty James in the background there as well, trying to put a move on Redshift 80. So GRG Jacob down into 1st place with GRG Jacob into 3rd place, with Shawsey currently running 4th, Redshift 80 5th, and Doherty James in 6th. So from a promising position there for Doherty James, he doesn't quite manage to get the move done this time around. But of course these cars all running very close together, running nose to tail, and so anything is possible. Oh, a little bit of a slip there from Shawsey, just a little bit of oversteer from the BMW, of course the rear wheel drive BMW. So now moving back to the front, Banslowski within sighting distance of Sausage Miyagi now. The gap only about 2 seconds, depending on where they are on the course. Of course, that 2-second gap may be coming down. The pace between the two of them last lap was very, very similar. There's only a couple of hundredths of a second in it between the two of them. So this could develop into a very, very interesting race towards the end of the race here today. So moving back to this battle for the final podium position for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. GRG Jacob in front, Shawsey in 2nd, with that Redshift 80 in 5th position, so the 3rd car in line, and then Doherty James at the back in 6th position. So no one appears to be close enough at this point to try and go for a move. However, Shawsey seems to be trying to draft up behind GRG Jacob, just trying to get into the slipstream to make his way back to the back into that final podium position. Of course, Shawsey losing out to Shorzy losing out to Sausage Miyagi and Banzlowski at the beginning of the race, so just trying to battle his way back up into third place, into that final podium position. All cars running very, very close together. Another little squirrely moment from Shorzy there, just coming out onto that back straight at the back of the circuit. So again, moving back to the front of the field, Sausage Miyagi putting in the fast laps, putting in about a 3/10 advantage on that last lap against Banzlowski. So just pulling the gap out ever so slightly, not by a lot. But we'll follow these two round as they come into the final turn, and we'll see what the how the lap times look this time around. So Sausage Miyagi doing a 38 dead and Banzlowski doing a 38.2. So again pulling the gap out by a couple of tenths during that last lap. So again back to third, fourth, fifth. Doherty James seems to have dropped off the back of this group, and Shorzy just looking for a move down the inside there. That seems to be the place to do it, and of course Doherty James just getting a little bit sideways in the back of shot there. So these three cars all running positively nose to tail at this point, with Rd.3 Jacob at the front in third place. So this is the battle for the final podium position during the race. Oh, and a little bit of contact there. A little bit of contact between Redshift 80 and Rd.3 Jacob. Sorry, between Shorzy and Redshift 80. Just a little bit of argy-bargy. This is of course touring cars, so those sort of things can happen. And Redshift 80 now under attack from Doherty James. So this does mean that it gives Rd.3 Jacob a little bit of a chance to move away, move further down the road from this group. If this group keep battling between themselves, then they may lose the chance for that third place. So moving back to the front of the field as they complete lap 8 of this 14 lap race. Of course the lap counter is 1 lap out from the actual lap count, as we have a 1 lap formation lap at the start of the race. So Doherty James up into 4th position. Something has gone on between Redshift 80 and Shorzy there, as Shorzy is now dropped back to 7th position, so losing an awful lot of time. So someone we haven't been to quite a lot during this race, Calm Big Tam, who's slowly making his way back up. Of course had to start at the back of the field for not completing 90% of the feature race. Just making his way through the S's, just slowly making his way back up onto the rear of the field. So moving back to the battle for the lead, the gap does not seem to have changed. If anything, it's closed up ever so slightly. Of course the two cars close up when the leader goes into a braking area, so the relative split times that you can see do move backwards and forwards. So Banzlowski, I'm sure, trying everything he can at this point to just gain a few seconds advantage on Sausage Miyagi. So Sausage Miyagi putting in a 37.6 on the last lap, with Banzlowski putting in a 37.7. So Sausage Miyagi pulling the gap out by another 1/10 of a second there. Not by much, not gaining much throughout this race, but every little gap counts. Every little 1/10 that he gains every lap counts. So we move back to Redshift 80 and Calm Big Tam, with Calm Big Tam looking for a move down the inside, not quite on that time round, but really very close to the back of Redshift 80's car. Calm Big Tam, of course, running from the back of the field, so made his way up from 9th to 6th in this race so far. We are now, of course, on lap 10 of 14. So looking back to GRG Jacob, who is our 3rd place runner at this point, and a little bit of a gap between GRG Jacob and Doty James at this point. So we are going to move to Redshift 80 with Calm Big Tam all over the back of Redshift 80 at this point. Of course, an incident off camera between Redshift 80 and Shorzy. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Redshift 80 and Shorzy both battling in that 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th battle, and then of course both dropping back down the order as we go through. And Big Tam looking for another move there, just showing the nose of the car in the wing mirror, and here he goes down the inside. Can he make it stick? Not quite close enough this time. However, side by side down the straight, I think Redshift 80 has the run down the straight. However, Calm Big Tam jumps straight back into the slipstream, and Redshift 80 going defensive there into the first corner, just really tightening the line, and Calm Big Tam having to give him lots of racing room, just making sure that there is no contact there between the two of them. So moving back to the back of the field now, we have That Bag Z4 running close behind Shorzy. Let's see if he can move back up to back of the field. That Bag Z4, of course, starting at the front of the field, but just hasn't had the pace. Oh, very sideways there through the S's, but some serious car control there for That Bag Z4, keeping the car running, and of course planting the throttle in that front wheel drive car to just bring it all back straight again. So back to Redshift 80 and Calm Big Tam coming through the very slow left-hander there, and now moving back out onto the very, very quick part of the course, that long fast right-hander just before we get to the penultimate 2 corners. So again, Calm Big Tam having a little look down the inside and just seeing if he's close enough to try and move. He goes to the inside. He might have made it stick, not quite close enough. It's going to be side by side down the start finish straight again. This is going to be a straight drag race this time. Maybe Calm Big Tam will dive. There he dives straight back into the slipstream. Redshift 80 going defensive into the first corner again. And Calm Big Tam being forced to go around the outside there and running the tight line. Oh, he may have made it stick. He's obviously on the inside line this next corner. There we go. Calm Big Tam moves up a position to 5th. Redshift 80 just not quite able to get the drive off the first corner and hold it off. Went seriously defensive into the first corner and just wasn't able to get the drive. Calm Big Tam made it stick around the outside to move up from 6th to 5th. So moving back to the front of the field with Sausage Miyagi leading with, of course, 12 of 14 laps done. So only a couple of laps to go. We have a 1.4, 1.5 second gap between the two. Banslowski putting in a 1:37.9 on that lap, on that last lap. So about 4 tenths faster than Sausage Miyagi on the last lap. Let's watch them as they cross the line this time and just see what the lap times are. So Sausage Miyagi putting in a 1:37.8. Whoa, Banslowski putting in a 1:37.5. So we are now very solidly into qualifying time territory here, ladies and gentlemen. So following GRG Jacob down the pit straight, as he makes his way down to the first corner. Not a great deal of time between GRG Jacob and Doty James, only about 7 or 8 tenths. So this may develop into an interesting battle in the next couple of laps. And Calm Big Tam just able to pull a little bit of a gap on Redshift 80 there. So of course we saw the move a lap ago, and now he has managed to just pull about 0.8 on Redshift 80. So back to the front of the field again as Sausage Miyagi, who of course sadly ran out of fuel on the last lap in the feature race, but managed to put himself into a decent grid slot for the sprint race due to the reverse grid setup that we run here. So now the gap slowly coming down to 1.2, 1.3 seconds. So again, Sausage Miyagi putting in a 138.2, with Banslowski putting in a 138 dead, or 138, very close to a 138.1 there. So a couple of tenths in it. There's not a great deal of difference in the pace between these two cars. Of course, we are now on to the final lap, and Sausage Miyagi may very well, barring any mistakes or any mishaps, have this one in the bag. So I'm just gonna, and Doty James all over the back of GRG Jacob. So of course we may very well see a move here through the S's, the gap about 0.2. And GRG Jacob gets it very side. And a spin from GRG Jacob, just overcooked it through the S's there. Just managed to, and loses another place to Khan Big Tam. Let's hope we can get it going and maybe get onto the back of Khan Big Tam very, very soon. So as we follow our race leader Sausage Miyagi round one final time round the long fast right-hander, round to the penultimate corner, nobody really has had an answer for Sausage Miyagi's pace in this this sprint race. Banslowski has been very, very close all race, but just sadly lost a couple of seconds just getting through the field from his grid position, and Sausage Miyagi takes the win with a gap of 1.7 seconds, and you can see he's flashing his lights, so he's clearly very, very happy about that fact. So as we move back, and GRG Jacob fighting Khan Big Tam into the penultimate corner. Of course, GRG Jacob had a little bit of a spin into the final corner. Not quite got the legs on Khan Big Tam. This is going to be very, very close. This is going to be incredibly close. He may have got it. Yes, GRG has got it, and Khan Big Tam not quite able to hold off GRG Jacob into the final corner, on the run to the line. So we are now watching Shorzy as he comes across the line with that bag Z4 in 8th position, and then CRS Dizzy rounding out the field. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, CRS Dizzy rounding out the field, having a bit of a torrid race all told. And congratulations all round. So Sausage Miyagi winning the race, winning our sprint race after sadly running out of fuel in the feature race. A good race by all, and we are going to go
hanging in
through to our winners and our podium finishers for the sprint race. So we're just waiting to hear from the podium winners, the podium positions now. Of course, that's Sausage Miyagi, Banslowski, and Doherty James.
Can I just check, says include my audio party broadcast, is that right?
So ladies and gentlemen, the guys are just including their party audio for our broadcast, just so we can have a bit of a chat with them after that sprint race. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, let's go to Dodie James, who I believe is on the line now. James, that was a bit of a roller coaster race from you. You were kind of all over the place in terms of position there for a little while, and of course there was a very intense battle for third place. Just talk me through it from your perspective.
I think it's sort of like the last couple of races, just sort of keeping the consistency up, not making any mistakes, and sort of let everyone else do their own battles and just take it from there, really. Bit unlucky with Jacob. I was behind him. Didn't think I was going to pass him, especially had the penalty as well. Couple of time penalties for exceeding track limits, which are a bit unfair, even though I slowed down, but I still got the third anyway. So unlucky to Jacob, but good racing.
Yeah, so of course the monster of the project cars track limits rears its head again. But just kind of like you say, you're just trying to keep consistent lap times and kind of just keep your head down and keep battling.
That's
was there
it.
any point in that race?
Too pressured. Don't take the pressure too much. Just keep it smooth and keep it going.
So moving on, thank you very much, Dodie James. So moving on to Banslowski.
Yep.
Do you think that you had if the race was probably another 5 or 6 laps longer, it looked to me as though you had the pace to catch Sausage Miyagi? Would you agree that's true, or would you
it's
say
hard
that
to tell,
it's
but
kind of...
me and Sausage are like quite. We are having quite the same pace, so I cooked my tires in the last lap, so I lost quite a bit then. And in the end, I had a penalty, so even if I caught him, I still had to like gain an advantage over him to take the win.
Yeah. So looking at the best laps, there's actually less than 1/10 of a second between your two fastest laps. So to me, it seems that you were just a little bit unlucky with the. Obviously, well, not unlucky as you won the feature race, but kind of unlucky in that you were then obviously a little bit further back on the grid.
Yeah, but like that's the whole point of reverse grid, to mix things up. So.
No, it certainly made the racing interesting. For all of us watching today.
Yeah, and like I said, me and Sausage are like having really close, like very similar pace. And this is like third consecutive race. Then we are both in 10th of a second.
Yeah, like I say, you're literally within, I think, less than 1/10 of a second between the two of you on your best lap times. So thank you very much, Banslowski, and hopefully we'll see you next time, and it'll be some more good racing next time we see you all next Sunday. Moving on to Sausage Miyagi, just talk me through that kind of first lap, just the first couple of laps, just trying to get to the front from your grid position there.
This is just settling in, getting used to how the other drivers around are driving. It was Shorzy that was behind, and I seen that Banzarski was obviously behind me, and as he said, they were pretty evenly paced. So I knew I had to get past Shorzy relatively quickly so that I could keep that gap, which I did. I had a couple of laps in, I managed to get down the inside of him and take first. But,
yeah, so you were it was kind of very deliberately to try and get to the front of the field as fast as possible, and then just build a gap to Banslowski, knowing that he's got to come through the field. I couldn't to try and catch up with you.
I couldn't waste too much time behind Shorzy, whereas Banzarski would have been right on my back bumper, which is obviously, as you've seen, we wouldn't have been separated if he had caught me.
Yeah, it's incredibly close between the two of you in terms of lap time. Like I said to Banslowski, there's less than 1/10 of a second between the two best laps for both of you. Thank you very much. Well done for your sprint race win this evening, and unlucky in the feature race, mate.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from the CRS Touring Car League for this evening. We hope you've enjoyed it, and of course we'll be back next Sunday at the same time for round 4 of the CRS Touring League. This is of course Tier 1. There is a Discord to sign up to, which I believe the link for the Discord will be put in the Twitch bio for CRS, so that you can come along and get involved. If you're on Project Cars 2, we're obviously on Xbox, and so if you'd like to come along and get involved, there's more than just touring cars. That we run track days and time attack events. We also run a newcomers GT5 event for kind of the competitors that haven't quite found their feet in the cars yet, just to kind of figure out how this all works, how they can make their way into the world of sim racing. But for me, that's everything. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.